wonderful to have you here tonight. Thank you for being here. So just taking it back to England when you were a teenager, you finished high school, and you went straight into the trades and became a plumber for 6 years. So I'm wondering, was acting kind of something that was always in the back of your mind growing up that you always wanted to do? Or was it something that initially you hadn't really considered at all?
She knows a lot. No, when I was young, I could read from an early age. I never remember learning to read. So I was reading sports pages in the newspapers when I was like 5 years old. I never read Janet and John and stuff like that. And when I was at primary school, if there was ever any plays on or there was an assembly at school, I'd get picked to read because I could read. Not everybody could read at that age. I'd always had that in mind as a kid. And then I went to school, to high school, finished at 16, but I didn't do any acting there or anything like that. And I met a girl in a pub. Yeah, I think a lot of actors get into acting to meet girls. I don't know why, do you know what I mean? But anyway, I met a girl in a pub when I was 19, and my dad had just passed away, so I was like, I went enjoying plumbing and, I wanted to change my life, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And this girl said she was an actress, model and a dancer. So I was like, all right, yeah. So I dated her for a couple of months during the summer, and then the following January, I remembered the drama school in Sheffield. It was just a once a week improvisation class. And I turned up, and she couldn't believe it when I walked in the door. And I looked round, and there was 12 women and 3 lads. I thought, yeah, this is all right. So I started doing improvisation classes once a week, just as a hobby. And the guy teaching said, do you fancy going to drama school in London? I said, well, I didn't know a thing about it. And he taught me, we did speeches then once a week and carried on doing the improv. And I auditioned for drama school in London and got in. So it's quite traditional after that. I went to a drama school for 3 years in London. My voice is a bit croaky tonight. I've had 2 late nights recently. I was out dancing and singing last night. So next question.
So then, after you went to drama school, did you find that it was like a fairly smooth transition then, going into professional acting, or was it a bit of a struggle for you at first?
The funny thing was, I was a plumber and I worked for a small plumbing firm in Sheffield, and our wages guy was called Len Poole. And when I was leaving work to go to drama school, he said, oh, my daughter works in the industry. And I said, what's she doing? He said, she's a casting director. And I didn't really realise how powerful casting directors were at that time. So in my final year, when I was in my 3rd year at drama school, I realised what the crack is. I got in touch with Len. I said, Len, is your daughter going to come and see me in these plays I'm doing? And she's one of the most powerful casting directors in London. It was just pure coincidence that I worked with her dad. So she cast me in my first few things straight out of drama school. So it was quite a lot of luck and stuff involved like that. But well, she got me the Paradise Club, the first TV show I did. Yeah, but I did, like, it was a traditional. I got an agent from my final year performances at college and stuff like that.
So since then, you've obviously had an extensive career as an actor, including credits in some critically acclaimed films like Ken Loach's The Navigator in 2001. For those of you that don't know, he is a mega political director, quite controversial. He directed I, Daniel Blake, which was recently screened at the Toronto International Film Festival. His films really focus on social issues like workers' rights, as we see in The Navigators, as well as poverty and homelessness. He's won the Cannes Palme d'Or twice, as well as many other accolades. What was it like working for a director like Ken Loach?
Well, when I was growing up, a film called Kes was one of my favourite films, and Ken Loach directed that, which is about a boy who finds a kestrel and he's leaving school and he's got no job prospects, and this kestrel kind of like helps him get through life. So it was a real thrill to actually just audition for Ken. And I think I had 3 auditions, and you don't even do any acting, he just wants to know about your background. He's very takes real people. I think the film we did, there were only 3 actors and everybody else was real, they'd never acted before. So it was quite an experience. And he films chronologically. I'm sure there's a few directors in here who would love to shoot chronologically, but it's very rare. I think he's got a name and the budget helps him, do you know what I mean? People give him the budget to do that. So it's really helpful as an actor because a lot of his stuff is improvised.
So at least you know what you've done and where you've been when you're doing it chronologically.
So, of course, many people know you for your work on Coronation Street. You were on that show from 2002 to 2005. You played Tommy Harris, a mechanic who ends up being murdered by his daughter in a series of dramatic events. This is a show that, it first aired in the 1960s. It's been on for so long. It has such a huge fan following. All over the world. So I'm wondering, what was your favorite thing about being on a production like Coronation Street?
Free tickets for football. You get loads of perks when you're on Coronation Street. It's filmed in Manchester and I live in London, and you even get tickets for Wimbledon, and I live really near Wimbledon, and none of the rest of the cast could go because they all live in Manchester. So it's filmed really fast, and it's very you've got to be able to know your stuff. You've got to be on your lines, and it's like a factory. And it's a bit like Murdoch Mysteries. We film 10 pages a day. It's really quick. So it's I don't know how they do it. The crew, not the actors. I think the crew work harder than any actor, I think.
Coronation Street is even a hugely popular show in Canada, as you know, and I found it really interesting that that's something that actually led you to and helped you to get the part on Murdoch Mysteries. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think at the time in 2007 when Murdoch was greenlit, I think Corrie was about a year behind. Canada was about a year behind England in this storyline. And I just had a really big storyline. My daughter killed me and everything. And it's funny. I just bought a house in Manchester, and they change the producers every 2 years on Corrie. And obviously they want to come in, make a mark, sack people, give people jobs. And my missus, she said, I had to go in for the meeting with the producer, and she said, I better get rid of you. I said, I've just bought a house. No. And he said, oh, Tom, we've got a great storyline for you. It's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be this. He says, but at the end you die. I was like, oh, fuck. It was a year. I had a year's grace, so it wasn't. But the press reported it as I was dying the next day. So my mum and all my aunties were like, oh, they've got rid of you. I said, I've got a year, But anyway, so the question was about Canada. So our producer on for Shaftesbury Films, Christina Jennings, she's from Preston, I think, originally, which is near Manchester, and she was a big Corrie fan, so I was kind of in their thoughts. And then the original showrunner, Carol Coons, he was a big Ken Loach fan, so when he saw my CV and everything, they figured, because I got the job on the strength of a showreel. I sent my showreel to Canada. I didn't even meet anybody, and I just got cast on the strength of my showreel, so it was really weird. But it was literally the Ken Loach clip on my showreel that tipped the scales, I think.
And so, of course, you play Inspector Brackenreed on Murdoch Mysteries. Are there any Murdoch fans in the house tonight? Yeah! So Brackenreed is like a no-nonsense, tough, by-the-book guy who I think, especially when he gets frustrated, he just would rather take matters into his own hands, like quite literally. But the show is now in its 12th season. Murdoch is kind of unlike anything else that's on television, really, because it is a period piece. It's set in Toronto at the turn of the 20th century. When you got the role, did you have to do a lot of research about, what Toronto was like at that time, and also what life was like for a character like Brackenreed at that time?
Not really. I didn't know I'd be here for 11 years, you know what I mean? No, my agent didn't know a thing about it. She said, you've got this job in Canada and you're playing Murdoch. I thought I was playing the lead. And she said, it's 2 months filming in Vancouver. I was like, oh, great. And then she said, actually, it's 4 months in Toronto and you're not playing the lead, you're playing his boss. And I was like, oh, fine, you know what I mean? But, sorry. There was a lot of background involved on the Ken Loach film. We did a lot of, I do work sometimes, you know what I mean? But when I got to Toronto and I saw the set, and the set is amazing, I thought, I might get 2 or 3 years out of this. But no, I'm here, season 12. I can't escape.
So then I will ask you, because you obviously learned a bit about Canadian history by being on the show. Yeah, since then. So what is the most interesting thing that you've learned?
Oh, there's loads. I mean, we covered every period in that period from the 1890s to 1906, I think we're in now, because the show goes 1 year at a time. So we started in 1895 and we're in 1906. You know, the Fenian riots, and we've just done an episode about the Greek immigrants being persecuted, which is actually 12 years ahead in real time, but we did it in 1906 instead of 1918. So I feel like my Canadian history has really expanded, you know. And it's funny, the first time I arrived in Canada, I'm a big football, soccer fan, and I got in my car at the airport, guy picked me up and he said, "You're English then?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You a soccer fan?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "This is a hockey town, kid."
So you've played a lot of cops as well over the course of your career. So with Inspector Brackenreed, like, is there anything that you feel that you really have in common with that particular character, or to word that differently, like how much of yourself would you say in your personality can you kind of relate with that character?
Well, originally they would write the dialogue and it'd be very Canadian, North American, and I used to change it, just transpose it to English phrases and stuff like that. But they also wanted to make the character, said he'd been to university, but I said, make him a career soldier, and he's ended up posted to Canada, and that's why he's in Canada, and then he's married. So I built a backstory for that character, and they ran with what I came up with, really.
And Murdoch Mysteries is in over 120 markets across the world. It's pretty incredible that Canadian storytelling can have this big of a global impact with this show. People from all the way from France to the southern United States are fans of this show and are really invested in the lives of its characters. So there's obviously something very universal about this show. What do you think it is that makes it such a massive hit in so many countries?
Well, in Canada, I think there's obviously not many shows that feature Canadian history, so I think that's why we're big in Canada. But across the world, I don't really know. I mean, there's a love story between Murdoch and the girl who plays his wife. There's the mystery element, and it's quite funny, you know. I think that's down to the actors, because the scripts are not really funny, but we make them funny. I don't mean to be arrogant, but, you know, our comic timing is pretty good for a show. It's funny, when they really write comic episodes, they don't really work. It's when the comedy just comes from the characters, I think. So it's funny. Yeah, but and Murdoch's quite easy on the eye. Women like him, you know what I mean? So, so I suppose, yeah, that's...
And you guys also have Murdoch Fan Days on set, where you invite a whole bunch of fans to come and be immersed in this world with you. And I remember, I think I read that you had said that at one point there were like 2,500 tickets that had gone on sale, and they were off sale within like 10 minutes, with people from all over the world coming. So what are those days like?
Yeah, I had my daughter here for one about 3 years ago, and the fans will know there's a character called Higgins, who's like a semi-regular in the show. And we were all booked for an hour, and fans turned up and they didn't know which characters they were going to get to meet. And me and my daughter got to the set early, so we went to Tim Hortons. I know Tim Hortons now. Yeah. We went to Tim Hortons. I was getting a coffee, and people leaving were in Tim Hortons, and this woman turned to this other woman and went, "Oh my God, we got Higgins." It was a bit cruel, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, not a lot of actors, get the opportunity to be on a show with a run such as this one. So you guys must have an interesting dynamic on set, because a lot of you have been there since the beginning, including yourself. So can you talk a little bit about the relationship that you all have and kind of the dynamic that you have on set?
When we have guest directors, they can't believe how easy it is to direct us all. I mean, we don't socialise away from work. We've been working together for 11 years, so we know one another inside out and backwards. So we don't actually socialise at all, really. We just talk to one another when we act. But, 12 years with anybody, I mean, I'm sure people have worked for 12 years with people, and you just don't talk to them, do you? You know what I mean? But we do have a really good shorthand in the acting, do you know what I mean? It's just a really good 4 core characters who can all act, and we're all pretty professional, know his lines and turn up and do it.
Yeah, I think it's also a really nice contrast, like with your character and Murdoch, because he has to be a little bit more level-headed. He's more diplomatic, and then you have Brackenreed, who's a little bit more feisty. So with you two particular, it's just like a nice contrast that you get to see.
Yeah, I mean, they let me beat people up and stuff, and they let me say the word bollocks, which is a swear word in England, but the Canadians don't really know that, you know what I mean? So I said bollocks a lot. But no, it's just a good crew, and our crew are phenomenal. I'm sure all you directors in here know that you've got to have a good crew, else it's a waste of time, the whole thing. And I can't believe that the work that the Canadian crew do on this, the hours they work, is amazing. Brilliant.
So, because you've been on the show for 11 years, how do you keep things fresh and inventive and grow creatively when you really know a character inside and out? Do you find that it makes it a little bit more of a challenge, or do you actually find that it makes things easier?
Well, we depend on the writers, really. The writers come up with new stuff and interesting stuff. This season, I've just found out I had a child from a previous relationship living in St Mary's. Does anybody know St Mary's? It's between London and Stratford. Yeah, I had a daughter down there. No. She's quite nice. She's alright.
I'm one of the writers.
Oh, really? It's funny, the girl who killed me on Coronation Street, she ended up marrying one of the actors that I work with in real life. Yeah, so...
So throughout the span of your career, what has been, you can choose a scene, an episode, or a film that you've shot that's been your favorite, and why?
Working with Ken Loach was a huge ambition, and that was brilliant. And the thing with Ken Loach, I will never work with him again because he doesn't use actors twice. He sees you as been in that film, which is a shame, you know what I mean? Yeah. But at the minute, I did a play earlier in London this year, and I'm doing it when I get back to London, and that's the best job I've ever been involved in. It's about soldiers struggling with PTSD, and we've got real veterans in the cast. So the cast is 8 veterans and 8 actors. And we've actually got a Canadian actor in it who served in the British Royal Marines called Cassidy Little. He got blown up in Afghanistan, he's got 1 leg and 1 eye. And when he comes on stage, it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? It's an amazing piece of theatre. If anybody's in London in November, try and see it.
Awesome. So, because you go back and forth from Toronto and London, what's your favorite thing about Toronto, and what do you miss the most about being back home?
Oh, I've learned to play beach volleyball. I play beach volleyball. That's my favourite thing about Toronto. Yeah, I've been playing May to September. It's brilliant. Yeah. I just miss soccer, English football. Yeah. I'm a big Sheffield Wednesday fan. That means nothing to anybody now. But no, it's funny. I'm in Toronto so much. When I'm here, I miss England, and when I'm in England, I miss Toronto. So, but the people in Canada are fantastic. You've all been very welcoming to me, and it's been a great experience.
So now we're going to open it up to the audience, because I want you guys to have a chance to ask some questions as well. So if anyone has a question.
Have you done or do you do now any of the indie production work that you work with indie productions for film?
Well, Ken Loach is like an indie director, even though he's not really mainstream. I've only done short indie British films. I've never been in any big budget films. So I just worked with a director called Gerard Johnson, who directed a film that was at TIFF 3 years ago called Hyena. So that was quite a good film. I don't know if anybody's heard of Gerard Johnson. No. Next question. I'd love to do more independent films, especially Canadian ones.
Thank you.
So, if we wanted to have you in an independent film, would you be open for that? Even if it's a new director who has,
Yeah.
someone who has won prizes, but...
It doesn't matter if they haven't won prizes.
Yeah.
Yeah. $5 grand a day. been in the business that long, I've kind of like, do you know what I mean? In September, I was a professional actor for 30 years, so if you'd have asked me that question, 20 years ago, but I understand the business and I understand how it works, and I just know that you can never plan or, I once did Riff in a Fringe production of West Side Story, and that, I loved playing Riff. And I always wanted to do that ever since I saw the film as a kid, so I did Riff.
Quick question. What do you do to prepare for a role? Or do you have any sort of methodology? There's lots of different ways to approach roles. What do you personally?
Sometimes prepare. I'm not a method actor. I think method actors are weird. No. There's no on a show like Murdoch and Coronation Street. There's no time to be a method actor. I think in 11 years we've had 1 or 2 actors come on and been a bit method, and it's like, oh mate, leave it at the door. Do you know what I mean? It's a waste of time. You've got to just get on. When the man says action, you act. When he says cut, you finish.
Do they cast you for you then? Is that what they do?
Well, Ken Loach cast me for me, yeah. I don't know why Murdoch cast me, because I thought at the time I was too young to play the part, but I'm looking older now. I'm getting into it, I'm getting into the part, yeah. My hair used to be really red, now it's really blonde.
Your method.
Pardon?
You got into the role, your method.
Yeah, the hair and the costume, yeah, that's it. Sorry to, I'm not one of them actors, do you know what I mean? Not many English actors are method, actually. I've not met any English actors who are method. Yeah. Have you all worked with any English actors? Does anybody work with English actors? Yeah? Was he a method actor? No.
But you say, I wanted to know, what did you think the business was 20 years ago? Because you started 20, but what did you think?
Well, I wanted to be an actor because I wanted to work on stage. I never dreamed I'd be on TV. I just wanted to work in the theatre. And I think a lot of actors these days want to be famous. We've had a couple of actors at Murdoch who they just want to be at TIFF events in a nice dress, and they don't want to do the work. They come to work and they haven't got themselves prepared, and they just want to be at parties. I think that's pointless. It's about the work, really.
So you
That sounds good.
So you think, so before you thought it was only acting and now you realize it's changed? Is that what you mean? Like now you realize it's all about being...
No, I think it's more about fame now. I think people want instant fame and instant gratification. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, anybody else? At the back.
What do you like more about acting? So what is your, what I'm saying, passion? Why do you like acting? What is that you're driving to be acting?
I think the very first time I went on stage when I was working, when I did this company in Sheffield, this school, they did 1 performance a year, they did a play a year, and I think I'd been doing it for 6 months, and they were doing Midsummer Night's Dream, and I played Theseus with a totally broad Yorkshire accent, even though I've got one now. And I came on and I went, "Come fairy pollitter, our nuptial hour draws on apace," and it was terrible. But when you get a reaction off an audience and you've been on stage and it's not about being funny all the time, but when you get an audience reaction, I thought it was amazing. I think a lot of people who perform, the first time they get a reaction from an audience, it's kind of like a drug. And which is when you do TV, you don't get a reaction. The crew have seen everything 100 times, so they don't react. They're the worst audience in the world.
Yeah. Out of all the scenes you've done in your career, which one would you say is your favorite one?
Oh God. Oh God, that's hard. I'll tell you, I did a thing on TV in England. It's the only time I've remained in character, not methoding, but I played a male rape victim, and I had all these scenes where I got interviewed by the police after the rape. You didn't see the rape, but I kept myself to myself all day, and I didn't interact with anybody because the scenes were so emotional and heavy. So that was interesting, and I remember that. You know what I mean? There was a scene that was really affected me at the time. Yeah.
All right, so this will be the last question.
Yep.
What is your take on marketing in the acting industry?
Say that again, please.
What is your take
On
on
marketing?
the marketing in the acting industry?
Do you mean like social media and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm not on social media. And I think that's probably to my detriment when Murdoch finishes trying to get other jobs, because social media has become such a big thing and people have to have followers and stuff. And I think what I've heard is that, you know, Hollywood picks people if they've got more followers than a certain person. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I'm not very good at that.
And sorry, I want to let you ask your question.
Sure, thank you. What is one piece of advice you can give like an aspiring actor? Because
Just be 100% committed. If you're not 100%, it's pointless. There's too much competition.